This is the case study for Robert and Fiona Adams as they are doing their estate planning and making considerations for their disabled adult son. Let's take a look at the current situation with their son, Nicholas. He is currently 40 years old. He was diagnosed with a developmental disability at an early age. He has no significant employment skills, and he requires the ongoing support and lives in supported housing. He receives provincial disability, which in Ontario is the Ontario Disability Support Program, often referred to as ODSP. Now, Robert and Fiona have indicated that their planning goal for Nicholas's inheritance is to ensure it provides long-term financial security while also protecting his government assistance and benefits. Now, the first step of this process is to really conduct a needs assessment. And we need to take a look at what are Nicholas's current needs and then predict from that what his future needs will be. So you might think we're looking at estate planning. Why are we looking at the current needs? To determine how much we need to set aside, we really need to take a look at what is it cost now to sustain Nicholas on a day-to-day and a year-by-year basis. So let's take a look at Nicholas's current situation. As previously stated, he receives ODSP payments, and those would be around $1,368 a month, and that turns out to be an annual $16,416 a year. The ODSP payments primarily covers for him housing and food, and he has likely lived in supported housing for 10 or more years already. And this would be based on his age, and this assumption is going to be important a little bit later on, as I'll explain. It is very likely that Robert and Fiona have supported Nicholas by paying for expenses that are not covered by ODSP. This might be things like transportation, vacations, furniture, clothing, medical expenses that are not covered under the ODSP plan. And so this has probably been an ongoing thing that they've had to take care of along the way. Now that we've taken a look at the needs assessment for Nicholas, we really want to now have the Adams focus on maximizing grants, matching contributions, and tax credits. And the first step would be to apply for the disability tax credit if they've not done so already. The disability tax credit is a non-refundable tax credit, so it will not generate a refund, but it will reduce the taxes down to zero. It is likely that Nicholas at this point does not need to use that tax credit himself, but he can transfer the unused credit to Robert and Fiona. And that is the next step, to transfer that credit over. Since he is diagnosed from a young age, they would be able to apply for the CRA to do a 10-year reassessment, and they'll go back 10 years in the tax returns and make the adjustments, taking into account the tax credit. And then the fourth step would be to open a registered disability savings plan, which we'll talk about more in the next slide. Now, before we talk about the RDSP, I just want to point out something here, the value of the disability tax credit. The disability tax credit would allow a reduction of approximately $1,675 per year on Robert and Fiona's tax returns. And if you were to look at the going back 10 years, they would be entitled to around a $16,750 retroactive refund. Upon opening the RDSP or Registered Disability Savings Plan, there are grants and matching amounts that would be attributed to the plan, and those would be based on Nicholas's income. So because his income is under $20,000, he would be entitled to the maximum amount of matching and the bond payments. That $1,500 per year contribution to the RDSP would result in a $4,500 per year matching amount and bond. These contributions may continue for 10 years from his age of 40 to 49, and they can also go back and make up 10 years of missed contributions. Now, if we take the amount of the disability tax credit of 33,500 that they would receive on an annualized basis going forward for the 10 years, and we were to take the retroactive payments for the last 10 years, and they took that amount of money and they reinvested it into an RDSP, that would attract around $90,000 in grants and bonds. Assuming an annual rate of return of 6%, Nicholas would have over $400,000 in his RDSP at age 16. The advantage of the RDSP is that when the withdrawals come out of the RDSP, they do not impact his entitlement to the ODSP payments, and later on, they won't impact other means tested benefits, such as old age security and GIS. The final stage of their plan for Nicholas is by creating a Henson Trust. And the common and simple methods of inheritance, including direct inheritance and joint ownership with right of survivorship, and that could pertain to real estate or investments, they would adversely affect Nicholas's benefits, such as ODSP. That income would then put him over the threshold, and there would start to be a clawback of those benefits or a complete elimination. The Henson Trust preserves Nicholas's access to disability benefits such as ODSP, and the Henson Trust is commonly used in conjunction with a retirement disability savings plan. Let's take a look at the key components of a special needs plan. The Henson Trust itself is drafted into the will. The next thing is to choose the right trustee, and there's really two trustees we're looking at here. We're looking at the trustee of the will, and we're looking at the trustee that will eventually be appointed with the Henson's Trust as well. You want to choose someone that is trustworthy and is willing to take on the work to ensure that Nicholas is supported financially once his parents have passed away. A thing to consider is a letter of intent. A letter of intent is not a legal document, but it is a document that can inform the trustee of how you would like to see the money used, and it really helps the trustee stay focused on the wishes of the parents that have put together the Henson Trust. Considering guardianship, at this point, it might be wise for them to start maybe even transferring guardianship from themselves to maybe Nicholas's sister, and that could be now or it could be in the future. Again, you want someone that really knows the person and is willing to take on that role and look after their best interests. And you want to make sure you've aligned the beneficiary designations from other funds, because the Henson Trust does need to be funded at the time that it's set up. So you need to think about where are the funds going to come from that go into the Henson's Trust. So some key takeaways from this part of the presentation. Providing for adult disabled children are a unique situation, and it does require careful planning within estate planning. Poor execution of this can lead to a loss of benefits or disability supports for the disabled person. Appointing the right trustee and guardian is of utmost importance, and it is advisable to seek out legal advice with a firm with estate that is familiar with estate planning for special needs dependents. And here are a variety of sources that were used as reference in creating this presentation.